So where do you see now STO in the next 5 years?
I see it pretty much in the exact same place it is right now, which is the same exact place it was 5 years ago. The player base is stable and has been stable at basically the same numbers. You have a lot, new players. You have enough new players coming in as old players leaving, and a lot of the old players show back up here and there for new story content and those kinds of things. So it kind of balances itself out. So I did a video on this a while back, or I think it was one of the live streams that I did and turned it into a video. But I went and I did a good amount of homework, getting a good idea of what the numbers look like. Over time, and really what we've seen is that for the last, since it went free to play, there was a massive spike during that transition, but since then it's basically been a stable game, not going down, not going up, for the last 9-10 years now. And I think a lot of times we have these criticisms and they're legitimate, but I've really come to believe that the dev team and the studio, they don't believe anything's wrong with it. And if it's the way it's supposed to be, there's not anything wrong with it, right? We're really talking about things we would like to see and things that we would like to see changed, right? Putting aside the bugs and all of that. I mean, that's kind of a whole different, conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see any reason why, anything would change a lot. We'll continue to get, story missions here and there. We'll get a lot of ships. We'll get lock boxes. We'll get the same model that we've had for the past, 8 years, because that's been proven to be a stable model that just works. And so like it or hate it, that's the way it has been, and it's the way it is now. And I don't see any reason for them to want to change that. Because they look over those numbers in the past, and with inflation and all the other different things, their numbers are, dollar amounts are going up, in line with that. So my assessment is that in the next 5 years it'll be basically where it is now, but more ships and some extra story content.
Do you think with the acquirement of STO from Embracer Group, because I've been hearing some things from other channels about the Embracer Group has been so positive, but from that standpoint, of course, another entity taking over something, do you think there's going to be some sort of influence on that? Even though we know that they'll probably, like what you said, stay the course of what they're doing now, what are your thoughts on Embracer?
Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm just totally, this is my opinion. I have my guess, let me say it that way. I mean, number one, I don't know. Here's what I think, because I struggled for a while with thinking about why did they buy Star Trek Online, essentially. I mean, that's the largest game that Cryptic Studios has. They have Neverwinter, which is close to the same size, but I think STO is beating that out now. Apart from those two, there's not a lot of other big hitters or anything like that. And so part of me was like, okay, well, they got to come in and at least maintain the status quo, or look at feedback and make it even better. And when I say make it better, like advertise, try and draw in new people, because they don't do a lot of that. It's always really kind of surprised me. I've seen an advertisement here and there, but if there was just more advertisement and and things like that, try and hook in new people, I feel like we would see a lot more growth in the overall player base. But I don't know that they would really change anything. But really what happened is Embracer bought the Star Trek IP. That's what they bought. And so the question is, what are they going to do with that? Are they going to continue to operate STO as long as they can with that licensing, or are they going to use that licensing that they now own to build something new or something different? But those are really the two choices that they have. They didn't buy a bunch of games. They bought the Star Trek IP, and that's huge because Star Trek is huge right now. There's a ton of stuff coming out, and there's and that's going to continue. So my assessment at this point is that is what they bought when they purchased Cryptic Studios. And so really the question becomes is, what is their plan for that IP? Is it to continue STO, and are they just happy with the status quo? I don't believe that. I believe that they're either going to try and do something to increase the revenue from the game. And I'm assuming that if they went that route, it's not going to just be more of the same. They would have to do some different things, or do they have long-term plans to build a new MMO or some new Star Trek game? I think it's one of those two. I don't know which one it's going to be, and maybe I'm just totally wrong, but they didn't come in and spend however much they did, tens of millions of dollars to buy a 12-year-old game that's built on a proprietary engine that has a lot of issues. That's not what they bought. They bought Star Trek is what they bought. So again, the question is, what is it that they're going to do with that?
Yeah, and I've always said that, I've always thought in like quarters financially. Like I knew for sure, I thought if anything, the first half of the year, so the first 2 quarters of the year, 3 quarters, nothing. But now that we're here and going essentially into the 3rd quarter, nothing. You're right, nothing has really happened. So I think in the next, I'd say year or 2 is gonna dictate any changes, if there is any, from Embracer.
Yeah, I think we'll see some. I have no idea what they'll be, but I mean, let's think about the changes that we would see, and let's start with the easiest things that we would see. Okay, a new website. We're seeing that now. We're a year and a half in, right?
Yeah.
So anything else that's bigger and new, and more meaningful. I mean, based off that timeline, I don't think that it's reasonable to think that we would have already seen that if we're just now over the past couple months seeing the new website being fully released, and it's not even fully there. So I think over this next year, 2023, I think that'll really, by the end of that, we should probably have answers to all these questions. What is going to happen? Is it going to be just continuation of the status quo, which is fine? Are they going to actively try and, promote the game and build on the game? Or are we going to see maybe it start to wind down and, maybe something new being developed? But I think over probably next year, we'll get a little better insight or clues as to which direction, we're going. Or, they may just keep the status quo and on the back end be building something new. I mean, that's definitely possible as well. Their revenue looks great. I mean, compared, looking at everything that's public that we can see, they got plenty of money to be doing that just with Cryptic. And with Embracer Group, I mean, they're a very large company, so they could easily be, designing some new things. So I don't know. I mean, those are just my guesses. But I think going through next year, we'll have a little better idea of what we're going to see.